all my fight fans? We are fresh off of UFC 290, and it was a great event. A lot of action-packed fights, and I'm gonna talk to you guys about all that right here, right now. Let's get started. First, with that main event, we got the featherweight championship of the world, the GOATs of the featherweight division, in my opinion. Alexander Volkanovski pretty much destroys Yair Rodriguez. It wasn't even really much of a close fight. Yair Rodriguez maybe had a few good punches here and there, but Volkanovski does what he does best. He went in there and he pretty much ran over Yair Rodriguez. It really wasn't something that was gonna blow your hair back. It wasn't something that was gonna be super entertaining, but it was it was still definitely a one-sided victory for Volkanovski. He definitely was very strong. Used a lot of his wrestling. You pretty much was able to find Yair's weaknesses, and which is when you put the pressure on him and you don't give him that room to use some of those deadly leg kicks that Yair has, or some of those deadly strikes, you pretty much are taking away all his great attributes that he has. So, Volkanovski was able to do that and pretty much get a win by TKO in the third round. Very impressive victory, of course. So what is next for Volkanovski? Well, there really isn't a whole lot. I know he had a little face-to-face with Ilia Topuria, and Ilia Topuria is making his name well known within the featherweight division. But if you really ask me, I think he should just step down from the featherweight division. Maybe he does want to stick around. I did hear he wants to break a few records and whatnot, and we already know Jose Aldo is still considered one of the GOATs in many people's eyes, and he does have the most title wins in featherweight history. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure Volkanovski is gonna stick around just for a little bit longer to break some of those records, but I really do want to see him at lightweight. He says he's not ruling out lightweight whatsoever. He's even saying that he's not ruling out a rematch with the champ Islam Makhachev. So you got to ask yourself, where do you really want to see Volkanovski at? I feel like for his career and for more money, he can have a lot more better fights in the lightweight title picture. It's still going to be a tough challenge because, again, some of those lightweights, they ain't no small men up there. Those guys walk around at like 170, 180, maybe even 200 pounds, cut weight to 155. And, Volkanovski, he is a relatively small guy, even for the featherweight division, but he was able to handle it no problem with ease. So we just got to see what happens next for Volkanovski. As far as Yair Rodriguez goes, I'm sure he could work his way back up. Again, you got Ilia Topuria up there. You got that rematch, possibly the fight that we didn't get to see with Brian Ortega. I definitely would love to see that happen. I know Josh Emmett just came off this loss. So, there's Arnold Allen, Max Holloway still in there. So, yeah, there's a few fights for Yair Rodriguez to keep himself busy. In the co-main event, you have Brandon Moreno taking on Pantoja. This was a rematch. Well, this was technically a part 3, if you ask. If you really look at the history books. They fought each other twice in the Ultimate Fighter. And, once in the Ultimate Fighter, and I believe in another fight. I believe it was like a fight night, and, of course, the title fight now. It was a great fight. I believe Brandon Moreno ended up hurting his hand in the first round, but still he used that jab and he used those power punches with, he pretty much was using that with a purpose. Pantoja ended up getting a victory by, in my opinion, a technical decision, because in a sense he didn't necessarily do a whole lot, but he did have more control time with his wrestling, being able to hold down Brandon Moreno. And Brandon Moreno definitely was the striker. Brandon Moreno was definitely much more of the boxer. And he pretty much was destroying Pantoja's face. I personally thought that he was going to get this fight stopped. Like they were going to stop this fight maybe in the third round or so. Because, Brandon Moreno was pretty much just picking him apart. In that first round, I thought Brandon Moreno was going to get stopped himself. Pantoja had a really good first round. But at the end of the day, Pantoja did earn the victory by, again, I say technical decision. Because at the end of the day, yes, did he hurt Brandon Moreno? Yes, you could see his face. It was pretty busted open. But I feel Brandon Moreno was a more active fighter going into that. Was the more accurate fighter. He definitely had a lot more accurate punches going into that fight, and or in the fight, I should say. But just Pantoja's wrestling was just on a different level. Pantoja's wrestling and being able to hold him down, being able to stop a lot of Brandon Moreno's attacks. And especially in that last round where he pretty much held him. Me personally, I feel like they should have broken up just a little bit, because it's just after a certain amount of time, maybe like 30 seconds to a minute, and you're not really doing much. I feel like I get it. It's a jiu-jitsu. It takes a lot more time to transition, and it takes a lot more time to, get into some type of submission. But we can't allow that to happen for that long. My personal opinion. When it comes to like a minute or a minute and a half, and he's pretty much just hanging on to his back, it's like, come on, what are we doing here? You know, what's going on? Let's do something. But that's just my personal opinion. But the victory goes to Pantoja. What's next for these guys? Hands down rematch. Rematch for both these guys. Now, I know Dana White had mentioned they both went to the hospital. I know Brandon Moreno hurt his hand. We're not sure how Pantoja is. Maybe he's all right. Maybe he's not. Who knows? Hopefully they are. But I don't see any other option but giving these guys a rematch. 100%. I know everybody and their mother would love to see a rematch with these two. Now you got in the co-main event, I like to say DDP taking on Robert Whittaker. And DDP pretty much doing the upset of the year. Nobody saw this coming. I was actually rooting for DDP only because of the storyline that's going on with Izzy, but I'll get into that in a sec. But yes, DDP pretty much ran over Robert Whittaker. You know, it was a very technical first round, but DDP got the better of that a little bit. He was using some of his power, using some of his striking, using some of his pressure that he was able to do against Robert Whittaker. And in that second round, completely annihilated Robert Whittaker and stopped him. You know, we know he got stopped before with Israel Adesanya in their first match where Robert Whittaker lost the title, but I don't think he's ever been this badly beaten. And Robert Whittaker is by far the best middleweight in the world outside of Israel Adesanya. So now, with DDP pretty much doing his thing, he now gets a title shot for the middleweight championship of the world against Israel Adesanya. They both had traded words when Israel Adesanya met up with DDP in the middle of the octagon. And yeah, this is going to be a very, very intense fight. Now, they're thinking about doing this in September, but we got to see how DDP is because, you know, they always got to do protocols. They got to make sure this guy's not hurt, no injuries, no nothing. And if this does happen, I am very much looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to it because, you know, this is going to be a good bad blood match. It's been a while since we had something like this. We know we had it with Alex Pereira, but now this is a different one. I can only imagine how the trash talking is going to begin. I can only imagine the press conferences. I'm very much looking forward to this build-up, 100%. And it's definitely new. Definitely new because it's not, no disrespect to Robert Whittaker, but I don't think very many people were too keen on seeing a rematch with Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker Part 3. That's just my personal opinion. Now, as far as Robert Whittaker goes, I would love to see him go up to light heavyweight. I mean, I know he doesn't quite have the size. The guys up there are pretty big, pretty tall, and got a lot more muscle mass on them. I just feel like there's not a whole lot left for Robert Whittaker to do in the middleweight championship of the world title picture. He's already won the belt. He's already done the thing. He's already one of the best middleweights of all time. And you probably put him in the top 5 greatest of all time in the middleweight history. But still, at the end of the day, I feel like his time in the middleweights is just done. I would love to see him at light heavyweight now. Try to conquer a new division. Try to take on new challenges. He can always still take on a few other guys. Like I know he hasn't faced Sean Strickland. And I know there's still that Paulo Costa fight that could possibly be in there. So is he completely done for the middleweights? No, not necessarily. But at the end of the day, it would be nice for a change. That's just my personal opinion. In the rest of the fight, you had Dan Hooker looking great. He looks like he broke his wrist against, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the guy's name at the moment right now. But he looked pretty good. It was a great back and forth war. You got Bo Nickel pretty much looking very impressive. We would hope to see now a little bit more in the rankings. I believe this guy was a top 15 opponent. I would love to see him go against somewhere in the top 10. Just like not straight up 100%, like 1 through 5 or whatever. Maybe a ranked 11, 10, 9 opponent to see where exactly Bo Nickel was at. Because, you know, it's pretty easy to look really good against other opponents who are on that same level as you are. Or not the same level, but maybe you're above their level. But now let's see how good, you know, Bo Nickel really is. We don't want to throw him into the fire real quick, but we do want to see how he is against some relatively good opposition. No disrespect to his other opposition, but still, we would love to see that being tested. I'm sorry I skipped over it for Dan Hooker. He's in the lightweight division. So, you know, the sky's the limit. There's still quite a few other challenges that he could take on. But I do believe he hurt his wrist, so we're probably not going to see him anytime soon. Bo Nickel, just mentioned, somewhere in the top 10, maybe 11, 12 ranking. Definitely around there. I would love to see. Because he's in the middleweights, and we could have a new middleweight star in the rising. In also the main event of the prelims, you had Robbie Lawler taking on Barberena, and he pretty much was able to finish his career with a 38-second knockout. Pretty much just dominated. Did it in Robbie Lawler fashion. He pretty much is literally going to be very missed. I'm going to make a video about him shortly. But yes, it was definitely a very entertaining way to start the pay-per-view. So guys, if you haven't checked these fights out, Go check them out on YouTube. I'm sure they're already there. I'm sure they're already available. Go watch them. Let me know what you think about the fights. Let me know what you think about who is next for each opponent. Let me know what you think each opponent is going to do with the losses. Just let me know in the comments, guys. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.